Kim Tae-ho stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council Station. The massive room was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few looked like walking crystals. Tae-ho was used to this by now. Humans. Had been part of the council for 2 years, but he still felt small among these alien species. The strength assessment ceremony happened every year. Each species would show their military power and talk about their achievements. It was supposed to keep peace by making sure everyone knew who was strong and who was weak. Tae-ho thought it was silly, but he followed the rules. Ambassador Ketherol of the Vorthak Empire walked to the center of the hall. He was tall and covered in dark purple scales. His 4 arms moved as he talked, and his voice was deep and threatening. The Vorthak were new to the council, just like humans. But they acted like they owned the place. "Fellow council members," Ketherol said, his voice echoing through the hall, "the Vorthak Empire has conquered 12 star systems this year. Our fleets are the strongest in this sector. We fear no enemy." Many species nodded and made approving sounds. The Vorthak were indeed powerful. They had big ships and lots of soldiers. They won most of their fights quickly and without mercy. Ketherol's eyes looked around the room and stopped on the human section. Tae-ho felt uncomfortable under that cold stare. The ambassador's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "But I see some species here that do not belong in a council of warriors," Ketherol continued. "Some who have never shown their strength. Some who come from soft worlds and speak only of peace." The hall became quiet. Everyone knew he was talking about humans. Earth was known as a garden world. Humans grew food, made art, and talked about harmony. Most species thought humans were weak but harmless. That was fine with Tae-ho. Better to be underestimated than feared. "The humans," Ketherol said, pointing one of his 4 arms at Tae-ho. "They have been here for 2 years. Have they shown any strength? Have they won any battles?" "No. They sit quietly and agree with everyone. They are not warriors. They are farmers playing at being soldiers." Some species made nervous sounds. Challenging another species in public was not normal. It was rude and dangerous. But Ketherol did not seem to care. Tae-ho stood up slowly. He was a small man compared to most aliens in the room. His black hair was neat, and his simple gray uniform looked plain next to the colorful clothes of other species. He had been a soldier once, but that was long ago. Now he was a diplomat. "Ambassador Ketherol," Tae-ho said in a calm voice. "Humans believe that strength comes in many forms. We prefer to solve problems with words, not weapons." Ketherol laughed. It was a harsh sound that made some species step back. "Words? You think words make you strong? You think peace makes you powerful? The galaxy belongs to those who can take it and hold it." "Perhaps," Tae-ho said. "But taking is easier than keeping, and keeping requires wisdom." The Vorthak ambassador's scales darkened with anger. "You dare lecture me about wisdom, little human? You come from a world that has known only peace. You have no armies worth mentioning. Your ships are few and weak. You know nothing of real war." Tae-ho felt something cold in his chest. The alien was wrong about many things, but Tae-ho could not say that. Humans had agreed to keep their past quiet when they joined the council. Most species did not need to know about the wars that had shaped humanity. It was better that way. "I challenge you," Ketherol said suddenly. The hall went completely silent. "I invoke the trial of dominance. Let us see if humans are worthy of their place in this council." Teho's heart began to beat faster. The trial of dominance was an old law. If one species challenged another, they had to fight. The winner would prove their strength. The loser would lose their place in the council or become servants to the winner. It had not been used in over 100 years. "Ambassador Kethrel," said council leader Morthen, a wise old being that looked like a tree with eyes. "Are you certain? The trial of dominance is not a game. It is a matter of life and death." "I am certain," Kethrel said. "The humans must prove they belong here, or they must leave. I challenge their entire species to show their worth." All eyes turned to Teho. By council law, humans had to accept the challenge or leave the council forever. Teho thought about calling Earth for orders, but he already knew what they would say. Humans did not run from fights, even when they should. "I accept," Teho said quietly. His voice carried across the silent hall. "Humanity accepts your challenge." Kethral's smile was cruel. "Good. We will meet in the neutral zone in 1 month. Bring your best ships and your best warriors. We will show the galaxy what real strength looks like." The ceremony ended quickly after that. Species began to leave, whispering among themselves. Most looked at Teho with pity. A few looked excited, like they were already planning to bet on the fight. Teho waited until the hall was almost empty. Then he activated his communication device and called Earth. The call would take several minutes to reach home, but he needed to talk to someone who understood what had just happened. Park. So Jin answered the call. She was the chief of Human Defense Forces, though most aliens did not know that title existed. She was a tough woman with short black hair and scars on her hands from old battles. "Teho," she said when his face appeared on her screen. "I just got the report. A trial of dominance? Are you serious?" "I did not have a choice," Teho said. "If I had refused, we would have been kicked out of the council. Earth would have been alone again." So Jin was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that others did not. "They have no idea what they have just awakened," she said softly. "Start preparing, Teho. It is time to remind the galaxy why humans survived long enough to reach the stars." Teho ended the call and looked out at the stars through the great windows of the station. Somewhere out there, the Vorthak were getting ready for war. They thought they would face farmers and peacekeepers. They were very, very wrong. War Master Thekmor stood on the command deck of the Vorthak flagship Iron Claw. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Screens showed ship positions, weapon status, and battle plans. The Vorthak war machine was getting ready. "How many ships do the humans have?" Thekmor asked his intelligence officer. "Our scouts report maybe 50 ships total," the officer replied. "Small ones. Nothing bigger than a light cruiser. Their weapons are basic energy guns and simple missiles." Thekmor laughed. 50 ships against his fleet of 200. It would not even be a real fight. "What about their allies? Surely some species will help them." "None, War Master. The humans said they prefer to handle family business alone." This made Thekmor laugh even harder. Family business? This was war, not a family dinner. The humans were either very brave or very stupid. He thought they were stupid. On Earth, things were very different. Park So-jin sat in a room deep underground. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps, ship designs, and classified files. This was the real headquarters of human defense, not the pretty building that aliens were allowed to see. "Show me what we have." Sojin said to her staff. Choi. Minho, the intelligence officer, pressed some buttons. The screens changed to show lists of ships, weapons, and soldiers. The numbers were much higher than what the Vorthak scouts had found. The Vorthak think we have 50 ships, Minho said. We actually have over 3,000 in active service, plus the reserve fleets. Nam Hye-jin, the weapons specialist, spoke up. And they think our weapons are basic. They have not seen the new plasma cannons or the quantum torpedoes. Should we show them everything? Not everything, Sojin said. We do not want to scare the whole galaxy, just enough to win and make our point. Far away on the council station, something interesting was happening. Historian Veltar was doing research. Veltar looked like a giant butterfly with blue wings and many eyes. She loved to learn about different species and their histories. Veltar had decided to learn more about humans before the trial. Most species did not bother to study their enemies, but Veltar was curious. What she found made her very worried. This cannot be right, she said to herself as she read through human historical files. The files were not classified, but most aliens had never bothered to read them. Humans had fought wars for thousands of years. They had weapons that could destroy entire cities. They had battles where millions died. They had something called world wars, where the entire planet fought itself. But the most scary thing was how humans fought. Other species had simple battles. Army meets army, stronger side wins, weaker side surrenders. Humans were different. Humans used tricks. They attacked at night. They pretended to be weak, then struck when enemies were not ready. They turned enemies against each other. They never gave up, even when losing. Veltar found records of something called the Unification Wars. These happened just before humans reached space. Every nation on Earth had fought until only one government remained. The battles lasted for 20 years. Cities were destroyed. Millions died. But when it ended, humanity was united for the first time in their history. The war leader who finally won was someone named Kim Tae-ho. Veltar realized that the quiet diplomat on the council was not just a peacekeeper. He was one of the greatest military minds in human history. He had won the biggest war his planet had ever seen. She tried to contact other council members to warn them, but they were too busy betting on the trial. Most had already decided the Vorthak would win easily. Back on Earth, Lee Dong-woo was preparing something special. He was a scientist who studied aliens, but he also worked for human intelligence. His job was to understand how alien minds worked. The Vorthak think like most warrior species, he explained to Sojin. They believe strength comes from size and numbers. They attack directly and expect enemies to do the same. They have never fought humans before. What do you recommend? Sojin asked. Psychological warfare, Dong-woo said. Show them what humans are really like, not just our weapons, but our history, our nature. Make them understand what kind of species they have challenged. Sojin smiled. I like that idea. Prepare the historical files. All of them. Let the galaxy see what humans really are. Meanwhile, the Vorthak were having problems. 3 species had promised to help them fight the humans. But as the trial got closer, strange things began to happen. The first ally, the Krell Confederation, suddenly remembered an old treaty they had to honor. They said they could not help in the trial. The second ally, the Drak Empire, had a rebellion start in their home system. They needed all their ships to deal with it. The third ally, the Noth Republic, simply stopped answering communications. War Master Thekmor was confused, but not worried. He still had 200 ships. Even if the humans had more ships than reported, numbers were not everything. The Vorthak had bigger ships with stronger weapons. What Thekmore did not know was that Choi Min-ho had been very busy. Human intelligence had files on every species in the galaxy. They knew about secret deals, hidden weaknesses, and old grudges. A few carefully placed messages, some leaked information about profitable trade deals, and one small revelation about corruption had convinced the Vorthak allies to stay home. Sometimes the best victory is the one you achieve before the battle starts, Minho said to his team. On the council station, Veltar finally managed to get a meeting with council leader Morthen. She brought all her research about humans. "You must stop this trial," she said urgently. "The Vorthak do not understand what they are facing." Morthen looked at her research. His tree-like face showed worry as he read about human wars and weapons. "These records, are they accurate?" he asked. "Completely accurate," Veltar replied. "And these are just the wars they fought against each other. Imagine what they could do to an outside enemy. But humans have been peaceful since joining the Council," Morthen said. "They have never shown aggression." "Because they choose not to," Veltar said. "There is a difference between cannot and will not. Humans will not start fights. But if someone challenges them," she showed him a human saying she had found, "speak softly and carry a big stick." Morthen was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "It is too late to stop the trial. The challenge has been made and accepted. But we should be very careful about what we are about to witness." Back on Earth, preparations were nearly complete. One ship had been chosen for the trial. It was called the Defiant, and it looked like a normal human vessel from the outside. Inside, it carried the most advanced technology humanity had ever built. Captain Yoon Ji-sung would command the ship. She was young but had studied every battle humans had ever fought. Her tactical officer was Lieutenant Kang Soo-bin, who could predict enemy moves like she was reading their minds. "Are you ready?" So-jin asked Ji-sung before she left Earth. "We are ready," Ji-sung replied. "The Vorthak expect a fight between ships. We will give them something they have never seen before." "Remember," So-jin said, "this is not just about winning. This is about making sure no one ever underestimates humanity again." As the trial date approached, more species began to worry. The betting had started to change. Some aliens who had studied humans were quietly putting money on the human side, but most of the galaxy still expected a quick Vorthak victory. They thought humans were farmers pretending to be warriors. They were about to learn the truth. The neutral zone was an empty star system between two spiral arms of the galaxy. It had no planets, just asteroids and space dust. This was where the trial of dominance would happen. Thousands of alien ships surrounded the area to watch the battle. War Master Thekmore stood on his command bridge and looked at the tactical display. His fleet of 200 ships was arranged in perfect formation. Each ship was massive, covered in armor and weapons. The Vorthak had won many battles with this formation. "Where are the humans?" asked his tactical officer. Thekmore looked at his screens again. Long-range sensors showed only one ship in the trial zone. It was small and alone, floating quietly near a group of asteroids. "One ship?" Thekmore said. "They sent one ship?" "Sensors confirm it, War Master. One human vessel. Designation Defiant. It appears to be a standard cruiser." Thekmore felt insulted. Did the humans think so little of his fleet that they only sent one ship? This was supposed to be a trial of strength, not a joke. Captain Yoon. Ji-sung sat in the command chair of the Defiant. Around her, the bridge was quiet and calm. Her crew worked at their stations without worry or fear. They had trained for this moment. "Enemy fleet approaching," reported Lieutenant Kang Soo-bin from the tactical station. 200 ships in standard attack formation. They will be in weapons range in 10 minutes. "Good," Ji-sung said. "Are the recordings ready?" "All ready." "Captain," said Communications Officer Kim Jae-min. "Historical files are loaded and ready to broadcast." Dr. Lim Woo-jin looked up from his psychology station. "The Vorthak formation shows they expect a direct fight. They have never faced human tactics before." Ji-sung smiled. "Then let us educate them. Begin the broadcast." Across the galaxy, every species that was watching received the same signal. It was not a threat or a challenge. It was a history lesson. The broadcast started with images of ancient Earth. Humans with simple weapons fighting each other in massive battles. Then came pictures of medieval wars with knights and castles and siege weapons. "What is this?" War Master Thekmore asked his communication officer. "Unknown, War Master. The humans are broadcasting their historical records." The images changed to show more recent human wars. Soldiers in trenches during World War I, tanks and aircraft in World War II, nuclear weapons destroying entire cities. In the watching fleet, aliens began to pay attention. These were not the peaceful farmers they had expected. These were images of a species that had fought constant wars for thousands of years. The broadcast continued. It showed the Unification Wars, where every nation on Earth had fought until humanity was united under one government. The battles were massive and brutal. Entire cities were destroyed. Mountains were leveled by orbital bombardments. "By the void," whispered Council Leader Morthan as he watched from his observation ship. "They did this to themselves?" The final part of the broadcast was the most shocking. It showed human population numbers before and after the Unification Wars. Humanity had reduced its own population by half to achieve peace. 3 billion people had died in 20 years of fighting, and the leader who had won that terrible war was Kim Tae-ho, the quiet diplomat who sat in council meetings and spoke about peace. War Master Thekmore felt something he had not felt in many years: doubt. These images showed a species that understood war better than any other in the galaxy. A species that had fought itself almost to extinction and survived. "War Master," his tactical officer said nervously. "Should we continue the attack?" Before Thekmore could answer, the human ship moved. But it did not charge toward his fleet like a normal warrior would. Instead, it disappeared into the asteroid field. "Where did it go?" Thekmore demanded. "Lost contact, War Master. The asteroids are blocking our sensors." This was not how battles were supposed to work. Enemy fleets were supposed to face each other in open space. The stronger side won through superior firepower. Hiding in asteroids was unnatural. "Send the first attack group into the field," Thekmore ordered. "Find that ship and destroy it." 50 Vorthak ships moved into the asteroid field. They spread out in a search pattern, using their sensors to look for the human vessel. Captain Ji-sung watched them come. The Defiant was hidden behind a large asteroid, its engines powered down to minimum. Human stealth technology was more advanced than the Vorthak knew. "They are splitting up," Soo-bin reported. "Just like we predicted." "Humans wrote the book on divide and conquer," Ji-sung said. "Target the lead ship. One shot, then move." The Defiant slipped out from behind the asteroid like a hunting shark. Its new plasma cannon charged and fired once. The beam of energy cut through the lead Vorthak ship like paper through wood. The massive vessel exploded in a ball of fire. Before the other Vorthak ships could react, the Defiant was gone again, hidden behind another asteroid. "What happened?" Thekmor shouted as he watched one of his ships disappear from the tactical display. "Unknown weapon, War Master. Much more powerful than our intelligence reported." The remaining 49 ships in the search group began firing wildly at asteroids. They could not find the human ship, so they tried to destroy its hiding places. This was exactly what Captain Ji-sung wanted. The Vorthak were panicking, wasting ammunition, and destroying their own cover. Meanwhile, the Defiant moved silently through the asteroid field like a ghost. The human ship struck again, and again. Each time it appeared just long enough to destroy one enemy vessel, then vanished before return fire could hit it. Dr. Lim Woo-jin was monitoring Vorthak communications. "Their commanders are arguing," he reported. "Some want to retreat from the asteroid field. Others want to send more ships in." "Perfect," Ji-sung said. "Fear and confusion are our best weapons." But the Vorthak were not completely stupid. War Master Thekmor realized he was fighting an enemy that did not follow normal rules of battle. "Pull back all ships from the asteroid field," he ordered. "Surround it completely. If the humans want to hide, we will trap them inside." 149 Vorthak ships formed a sphere around the asteroid field. Nothing could get in or out without being detected. "Now what, little humans?" Thekmor said to himself. "You cannot hide forever." Captain Ji-sung studied the enemy formation on her tactical display. The Vorthak had made a good move, but they still thought like traditional warriors. They expected the enemy to try to escape. "Su-bin," she said, "how many enemy ships are watching? The far side of the field?" 37 ships, Captain. They think we might try to run away." "Good. Prepare the Ghost Protocol." The Ghost Protocol was something new. Human engineers had found a way to make their ships invisible to most sensors for short periods. It used a lot of power and could not last long, but it was perfect for surprises. The Defiant powered up its ghost systems and became invisible. Then it did something the Vorthak never expected. Instead of trying to escape, it flew straight toward the main enemy fleet. The human ship passed right through the Vorthak formation without being detected. It reached the command ship, War Master Thekmor's flagship, and reappeared directly above it. "Surprise?" Captain Ji-sung said as her weapons fired at point-blank range. The massive Vorthak flagship shook under the attack. Its shields flared and failed. Armor plating melted and twisted. But the ship was too big to destroy with one attack. Thekmor felt his command deck shake around him. "Impossible! How did they get through our formation?" The human ship was already moving again, striking other vessels in the fleet. The Vorthak ships began turning to face this new threat, but they were too slow. Human engines were faster and more agile than anything the Vorthak had seen. In the watching fleets, alien observers sat in stunned silence. This was not a battle. This was a demonstration. One human ship was making a fleet of 200 look like amateurs. "Should we continue watching?" asked one nervous alien captain. "Yes," replied Council Leader More Than. "We need to see how this ends. The galaxy needs to understand what humanity is capable of." War Master Thekmor was learning that lesson the hard way. Half his fleet was damaged or destroyed. His remaining ships were confused and demoralized. And the humans had used only one vessel. "War Master," his communication officer said in a shaking voice. We are receiving a message from our home fleet. What do they want? Thekmor asked. They want to surrender to the humans, War Master. Thekmor felt his world collapse around him. His own people were abandoning him. The mighty Vorthak Empire was falling apart because of one human ship and some old historical videos. Captain Ji Sung received the surrender message at the same time. She looked at her crew and saw pride in their faces. They had done something that would be remembered for 1,000 years. This is Captain Yoon Ji Sung of the Earth vessel Defiant, she broadcast to all listening ships. The trial is not over yet, but I think we have made our point. In the depths of space, more human ships began to appear. Not many, but enough to finish the job if needed. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity was not what it seemed to be. The surrender message from the Vorthak home fleet changed everything. Across the galaxy, alien species began asking questions they had never thought to ask before. If humans were this powerful, why had they been so quiet for 2 years? On the council station, Envoy Pion Dasom sat in a small office that most aliens thought belonged to a trade representative. In reality, it was the center of human intelligence operations in the galaxy. Dasom had been watching and learning about every species for years. Her communication device buzzed. It was Admiral Shin Jae-won calling from Earth. Dasom, the Admiral said. It is time to reveal the truth. The Council needs to understand why humans are really here. Are you sure? Dasom asked. Once we tell them, there is no going back to being the quiet farmers. The Vorthak made that choice for us, Jae-won replied. And after what just happened, hiding our real purpose will be impossible anyway. Dasom nodded and began preparing files that had been classified for decades. The galaxy was about to learn some very uncomfortable truths. In the trial zone, War Master Thekmor stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. More human ships were arriving, but they were not attacking. They just waited in formation, like wolves watching their prey. How many ships do they have? He asked his intelligence officer. Unknown, War Master. Our sensors show at least 50 new vessels, but some of them do not appear on our scanners properly. That was because human stealth technology was 20 years ahead of anything the Vorthak had seen. The ships they could detect were just the ones humans wanted them to see. General Torvex, the supreme military leader of the Vorthak Empire, appeared on Thekmor's communication screen. His face was dark with rage and fear. You have brought shame on our entire species, Torvex said. One human ship has defeated our greatest fleet. Sir, the humans are not what we thought they were, Thekmor replied. Their technology is far more advanced. Their tactics are unlike anything we have faced. Silence, Torvex shouted. I am mobilizing the entire Imperial Navy. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. We will show these humans what real war looks like. Thekmor felt ice in his chest. Sir, are you declaring total war? The council laws failed to protect us, Torvex said. If we must destroy Earth itself to restore our honor, so be it. The transmission ended, leaving Thekmor alone with his fears. He had seen what one human ship could do. What would happen when humanity stopped playing games? On Earth, Admiral Shin Jae-won received word of the Vorthak Declaration. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen too many wars. She stood in the command center deep under the planet's surface, surrounded by screens showing military assets across the galaxy. They want to threaten Earth, she said to her staff. How long since someone was that stupid? The Korth Rebellion, 43 years ago, replied her aide, before we joined the council. And what happened to the Korth? They no longer exist as a species, Admiral. Jaewon nodded. Prepare the full response fleet. If the Vorthak want to see human military power, we should not disappoint them. Colonel Bae Hyun-woo, leader of Human Rapid Response Forces, stepped forward. Admiral, should we inform the Council of our true capabilities? Yes, Jaewon said. It is time they understood why humanity was really invited to join them. The truth was something called the Architect. This mysterious being was one of the oldest members of the Galactic Council. Nobody knew what species the Architect belonged to, or even if it was still alive, but its messages still came occasionally, offering wisdom and guidance. 3 years ago, the Architect had sent a message to the Council. A new species approaches from the galactic rim. They are young but dangerous. Invite them to join us. Make them our guardians, not our enemies. Most council members thought the Architect meant humanity should be protected. They were wrong. The Architect meant humanity should protect everyone else. Envoy Dasom called an emergency council session. When the alien representatives gathered, she was not the quiet trade representative they knew. She stood straight and confident, like a soldier reporting for duty. Fellow council members, she began. For 2 years, you have known us as peaceful farmers and merchants. This was necessary for your comfort and our mission. But recent events require us to tell you the truth. She activated a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared in dozens of locations. These are threats that have approached Council space in the past 2 years, Dasom continued. Pirate fleets, rogue AI ships, nomad raiders, and 3 different species that wanted to conquer your worlds. The alien representatives looked confused. They had not heard of most of these threats. You did not hear about them because human forces dealt with each threat before it reached your borders. We have been protecting you without your knowledge. The display changed to show human ships in battle. The aliens watched in shock as human vessels destroyed enemies with weapons they had never seen before. The Zakhiri Pirate Confederation had 60 ships planning to raid Tentari colonies, Dasom explained. Human forces eliminated them in 4 hours. The Void Seekers were sending AI probes to study your defensive capabilities. Human intelligence captured and destroyed their entire network. The Nalgorak invasion fleet was 3 months away from Council space when human deep strike forces intercepted them. None survived to report back. Council leader Moore then stood up slowly. You have been protecting us? Without telling us? Yes, Dasom replied. Because most species are not ready to know how dangerous the galaxy really is. You live in peaceful systems and think the universe is safe. It is not. There are things out there that would destroy your civilizations just for the challenge. She showed them more images. Species that had been wiped out by unknown attackers. Empty star systems where advanced civilizations had simply vanished. Ancient warnings about things that lived in the dark between galaxies. Humanity volunteered. To be your guardians, Dasom said. We patrol the dangerous regions. We fight the battles you never hear about. We keep the monsters away from your sleeping children. But why? Asked Representative Claren of the Peaceful Mollusk Federation. What do you gain from protecting us? Dasom smiled sadly. Because someone has to. Because we know what happens when good people do nothing. Because humanity learned long ago that the price of peace is eternal vigilance. The council chamber was silent for a long time. Then alarms began ringing. Emergency signals came in from across the galaxy. "What is happening?" Moore then demanded. Daysam checked her communication device. Her face became grim. "The Vorthak have declared total war against humanity. They are mobilizing their entire empire and calling on their allies to join them." "Can you handle them?" asked Representative Veltar, the historian who had researched human warfare. "The Vorthak Empire has 12 star systems and about 8,000 ships," Daysam replied. "Humanity has been preparing for galactic defense for 70 years. We have bases in 40 systems that you do not know about and over 50,000 ships in active service." The numbers made several alien representatives gasp. 50,000 ships? That was larger than the entire Council Navy. "But that is not the real problem," Daysam continued. "The real problem is that the Vorthak threatened Earth. They said they would destroy our home world to restore their honor." She looked around the chamber at faces filled with fear and confusion. In human culture, threatening someone's family is the line you never cross. It is the one thing that turns us from guardians into destroyers. General Torvex has made the worst mistake in Vorthak history. Admiral J1's voice came through the chamber speakers. She was broadcasting to the entire galaxy now. "This is Admiral Shin J1 of the Human Defense Forces. The Vorthak Empire has declared war on humanity and threatened our home world. This is no longer a trial of dominance. This is now an extermination." The transmission continued. "Any species that aids the Vorthak will be considered an enemy of humanity. Any species that remains neutral will be protected as always. We suggest you choose wisely." In the trial zone, War Master Thekmore watched his sensors as the human fleet grew larger. More ships appeared every few minutes. Some were massive, larger than anything the Vorthak had built. Others were small and deadly, like the one that had destroyed his formation. "War Master," his communication officer said in a terrified voice. "General Torvex is demanding a report." "Tell him," Thekmore said quietly, "that we have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Tell him that our empire has perhaps 72 hours before it ceases to exist." Captain Jisung received new orders from Admiral J1. She read them twice, then looked at her crew. "Change of mission," she announced. "We are no longer in a trial. We are now the advance guard of a liberation force. The Vorthak Empire is about to learn why humanity survived long enough to reach the stars." Across the galaxy, other species began making urgent calls to their governments. The peaceful farmers had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous military force anyone had ever seen, and they were very, very angry. The Vorthak Empire lasted exactly 71 hours after General Torvex threatened to destroy Earth. It did not end with massive battles or glorious last stands. It ended with the Vorthak leadership calling every communication channel they could find, desperately trying to surrender before human forces reached their core worlds. President Han Mi-young arrived at the council station 3 days after the trial began. She was a calm woman with kind eyes, but everyone who met her felt like they were talking to someone very dangerous. She came on a ship that was bigger than most space stations. "Madam President," Council Leader Moore then said as she entered the Great Hall, "we need to discuss the situation with the Vorthak Empire." "What situation?" Mi-young asked politely. "There is no more Vorthak Empire." The words hung in the air like ice. Moore then checked his communication device and saw the reports. Every Vorthak military base had been destroyed. Every government building had been occupied. The Vorthak fleet had surrendered or been eliminated. In 71 hours, humanity had conquered an empire that had taken the Vorthak 300 years to build. How? Moore then asked. We asked them nicely to stop, Mi Young replied. When? They refused. We showed them the error of their thinking. Colonel Bae-hyun-woo stood beside the president. He had commanded the operation to neutralize the Vorthak Empire. His forces had struck every important target at the same time, using weapons and tactics the galaxy had never seen. The Vorthak made several mistakes, Hyun-woo explained to the gathered aliens. First, they assumed humans would fight like other species. Second, they declared war on us publicly, giving us legal authority to respond. Third, they threatened our home world. But mostly, President Mi Young added, they forgot that humans have been preparing for galactic war since before we reached the stars. We knew this day would come eventually. Representative Claren of the Mollusk Federation raised a tentacle, nervously. What will happen to the Vorthak people? Will you eliminate them? Mi Young looked shocked. Eliminate them? Of course not. They are not responsible for their leaders' mistakes. The Vorthak people will be free to choose their own government. We will help them rebuild their worlds and learn to live in peace. But their military, began another representative, will be disbanded, Colonel Hyun-woo said firmly. No Vorthak ship will carry weapons heavier than what is needed for police work. No Vorthak soldier will serve outside their home system. They can defend themselves, but they cannot threaten others. This was how humanity fought wars. They did not just defeat enemies. They made sure those enemies could never threaten anyone again. But they also helped former enemies become better than they were before. The Remnant was the last surviving Vorthak commander. His real name was Kethros, and he had been War Master Thekmore's second officer. Thekmore had died when his ship was destroyed in the final battle. Kethros had survived only because his ship's life support failed, and he was found floating in an escape pod. Now he sat in a human medical facility, being treated for his injuries. A human doctor named Park Sung-min was taking care of him. Why do you help me? Kethros asked. I am your enemy. You were our enemy, Dr. Park replied. Now you are just someone who needs medical help. That is what humans do. We heal people when they are hurt. Kethros had seen recordings of what human forces did to his empire. It was not like the wars he knew. Humans did not destroy cities full of civilians. They did not kill prisoners. They did not torture captives for information. Instead, they targeted only military sites and government buildings. They gave civilians time to evacuate. They treated prisoners better than the Vorthak treated their own soldiers. I do not understand. Your species, Kethros said to the doctor. Most people do not, Dr. Park replied. Humans are good at war, but we do not enjoy it. We fight only when we must, and we try to end wars as quickly as possible. Later, human intelligence officers came to interview Kethros. They wanted to know about other threats to galactic peace. To his surprise, they were not looking for enemies to attack. They were looking for problems to solve before they became wars. There is a species called the Rathkari, Kethros told them. They live beyond the galactic rim. They have been sending scout ships toward Council space for years. My government thought they were planning an invasion, but we were too busy with our own conquests to care. The human officers wrote this down carefully. Within hours, ships were being sent to investigate the Rathkari situation. Council Leader Moore then called another emergency session. This time, every species in the galaxy sent representatives. The hall was more crowded than it had ever been. President Mi Young stood at the center of the room. Around her were displays showing human military bases throughout the galaxy. Bases that had been hidden for years, protecting Council space from threats nobody knew existed. Fellow sapients, Mi-young began. Recent events have made it impossible to continue hiding humanity's true role in galactic affairs. It is time to establish new protocols for galactic security. She gestured to the displays. Human forces currently maintain 43 defensive installations outside Council space. These bases monitor dangerous regions and respond to threats. With your permission, we would like to make this arrangement official. What kind of arrangement? Asked Representative Veltar. Humanity will serve as the galaxy's immune system, Mi-young explained. We will patrol the dangerous areas, investigate unknown threats, and respond to military crises. In return, the Council will provide us with information, resources, and political support. And if we refuse? Asked a representative from the Drac Empire. Mi-young smiled sadly. Then you will be on your own when the next threat arrives. And there will be a next threat. The galaxy is full of dangerous things that most species prefer not to think about. She showed them images of ancient ruins where entire civilizations had vanished. Records of species that had been wiped out by unknown attackers. Warnings left by long-dead races about things that lived in the darkness between stars. The universe is not a safe place, Mi-young continued, but it can be made safer. Humanity has the technology, experience, and will to protect peaceful species. We ask only that you let us do this job officially. The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed to the new arrangement. Some voted out of gratitude for past protection. Others voted out of fear of what might happen if they refused. But all of them voted yes. The new Galactic Security Accords gave humanity broad authority to act against threats to Council space. Human ships could enter any system to investigate dangers. Human forces could take military action without waiting for Council approval. In return, humanity promised to protect all Council species equally, regardless of their politics or economics. They would not interfere in internal affairs unless asked for help. Admiral J-Wan was named the first Guardian of Galactic Peace. Colonel Hyun-woo became commander of Rapid Response Forces. Envoy Da-sam was promoted to Director of Threat Assessment. The galaxy began to change. Trade routes became safer as human patrols eliminated pirates. Border disputes were settled quickly when human mediators offered to investigate. Species that had been isolated by dangerous neighbors suddenly found themselves free to explore and expand. But the most important change was in how species thought about each other. The knowledge that humanity was protecting them made other species more willing to cooperate. Wars became rare because everyone knew that human forces would stop them if they went too far. 5 years later, Captain Yoon Ji-sung commanded a new ship called the Peacekeeper. It was much larger than the Defiant and carried a crew of both humans and aliens. Her mission was to patrol the galactic rim and watch for new threats. "Captain," reported her alien science officer, "we are detecting ships entering our galaxy from outside. Unknown configuration." "How many ships?" Ji-sung asked. "Hundreds, Captain. Maybe thousands. They are heading toward Council space." Ji-sung activated her communication array. "This is Captain Ji-sung to all human defense stations. We have a new situation developing. Unknown fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. All units prepare for possible first contact scenario." The response came back immediately. Admiral J-Wan's voice was calm and confident. "Understood, Captain. Defensive fleets are moving to intercept positions. Diplomatic teams are standing by. Remember, we protect the peace now. Whatever these newcomers want, they will have to go through us first. Ji-sung smiled as she watched her crew prepare for another challenge. Human and alien officers worked together, each using their species' strengths to protect the galaxy they all called home. Far away, on a hidden base beyond the galactic rim, more human ships waited in the darkness. These were the deep defense fleets, the ones even the Council did not know about. They had been built to fight threats that might destroy entire galaxies. A message came through the quantum communication network. All stations, this is Earth Command. New contact situation developing. Maintain defensive posture. Remember, the children are safe as long as we watch the dark. The human species had found its purpose among the stars. They were no longer just farmers or diplomats or warriors. They were guardians, standing watch against the dangers of an infinite universe. And they would never stop watching.